Hello, welcome to another video. Welcome to day 11 of the 21 days to feminine magnetism as we go through my book. Okay, so today is one of my favorite days because I absolutely love the ego so much. And I really feel like you need that. I believe that it definitely helps and it will definitely improve your dating life and it will improve any type of relationship that you may have with men. But I will say that if you're your most feminine self and you still are controlled by one to ruin, ego is for a relationship. The ego is about division. The ego is about self. The ego never really is about we, us, none of that. It's always about me. You play the victim. It wants to be offended by everything so that it doesn't have to take accountability or make any changes. So this is probably most people's issue when it comes to relationships. Even being feminine, all that stuff, all the strategies, all the tactics, being feminine, all that stuff will not work if you cannot overcome your ego. Now, I personally believe in this life you may never absolutely overcome it because the ego is a very strong thing. However, and also the ego it has a bad rep, but the ego isn't a completely bad thing, right? So like the ego is it's helpful in the fact that it helps you to protect yourself, right? So like if you are really literally in danger, either physically or emotionally, emotionally, I guess, where someone's hurting you or doing something to you, then it's very helpful for the ego to kick in and try and help you protect yourself, in the physical way, run away, fight back, or something like that. In the emotional way, you get angry, you get scared, and then hopefully you take some type of action to get yourself out of the situation. So in those cases, the ego is good. But probably in 70% of cases that deal with the ego is not necessary because it's, like I stated, it's about division. It's not about relationship. It's not about, hey, um, hey, cutie pea. So it's not about relationship, right? It's about um, just me, and what can I get out of things, and this person isn't meeting my needs, and how dare they do this to me, or how dare they say this to me, or who do they think they're talking to, like that type of stuff. All that type of behavior stems from the ego. Anytime you get rejected and you feel some type of way, and you feel offended, or you feel like wanting revenge, all this type of stuff comes from the ego. It's like the ego does not like to be rejected. Like that is the number one thing that gets someone who has ego problems, who's controlled by their ego, I would say, or has a fragile ego, going, is being rejected in any type of way. This is very true for narcissists. Narcissists are very much ruled by their ego. So if you're ruled by your ego, it doesn't necessarily make you a narcissist, but being a narcissist, you're definitely ruled by your ego, if that makes sense. So narcissists cannot handle, or anyone who has an ego problem cannot handle any type of rejection, right? If someone is rejecting them in a small way, a big way, a medium way, even from like, someone walking past them and they feel like, why didn't this person say good morning to me? Who do they think they are? Like, how dare they just walk past me and not acknowledge me? Do they know who I am? Like all that type of stuff, or even like, um, and even relationships is like, well, I know that he's not my boyfriend, but he should act like it, like that type of stuff. It's like the entitlement. Like entitlement definitely stems from ego. So today I have my blue and red on for Memorial Day. So happy Memorial Day, everyone. Um, so let's get into today's section. But I just wanted to give a little bit of overview of what the ego is and why it's so detrimental to relationships, especially. This is any type of relationship, but this is very, very true for romantic relationships, is you do not want to let your ego win, right? Okay, so so today is day 11 of the 21 days to feminine magnetism, right? And we're 21 days to form a new habit, to get into your subconscious by reprogramming it. So that's why we're on 21 days. That's why the book is 21 days. And ideally, you want to write the answers in a notebook or whatever. If you want to go, then you don't want to write in the book and then not be able to write in the book, and then next time just write in a journal. It's up to you, but that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so day 11, you're single. And I say this so much in my Facebook group over and over again about how, because this is how detrimental the ego is into relationships and in dating. Like, so many women are missing out on good men because they are controlled by their ego. And I personally think that the female ego is way worse than the male ego. Way worse. I personally think it is, because the female ego is very emotional. It's not logical. So it's just flying off the handle, very reactory. Is that the word? It's very about being reactive, right? The female ego is very reactive because it's emotional, right? So men don't have ego. Every human has an ego. Men have ego. Men have their own ego issues within themselves. But I feel like um, the female ego is just it's off the chain sometimes, because it is very emotionally based and not logical, and it's very reactive, right? Because I hear a lot of women, like, oh, like, I know that we don't go together, but the fact that he didn't um, come over to my house at 1 p.m. and block and kill this spider for me, I think I'm gonna block him. Like, that type of stuff. It's just ego, like, he needs to prove himself to me and do things that I know that he doesn't owe me, but I just feel like he should do them just because. It's just like, that's ego type stuff. Exactly. That's why I definitely say the female ego is the worst. It is way worse than the male's ego, because, as QDP just said, mixed with emotions, our ego is the worst. And that is why, because the emotionalness of being an emotional creature, first off, and then mixing it with the ego, it's just like, when they say you're taking medication, they say don't drink. It's because it's a lethal combination, right? So women, we have to work on our egos even more so than men. Men have to work on the egos as well, but we have to a lot more, because a lot of times we're very irrational when we're mixing our emotions in and then our ego, right? It becomes a very it will keep you single. I'm just going to put that. The title of this book, it will keep you single, and it will keep you constantly wondering why you can't, quote unquote, keep a man or keep a relationship. Okay, so let me read this quote, guys. I always like to start off with the quote for today. So, nobody sees anybody truly, but all through the flaws of their own egos. That is the way we all see each other in life. Vanity, fear, desire, competition. All such distortions within our own egos condition our vision of those in relation to us. Tennessee Williams. So this is a beautiful quote about the ego, and all these things that are listed in this quote: vanity, fear, desire, competition, are all come from ego, right? Being competitive is egotistical. Um, Desire, depending on the desire, it can also be egotistical. Not all desire comes from the ego. I will say that some desires are positive. Um, if your desire isn't selfish, it's not from ego, or it's not necessarily from ego. Now if you have a selfish desire or something like that, it may be from ego. It may. Fear is definitely ego. Unless there is a real threat that you can see, most fear is ego based, and unfounded, right? A lot of people are, I'm gonna be alone forever. I'm afraid I'm gonna be alone forever. I'm afraid to go out by myself because people are going to think I'm weird for going out by myself alone. Like I tell women, go out by yourself to us to locations. And a lot of people are scared to go alone. That's ego. You know, you think people are judging you when people are really not thinking about you. They're immersed in their own lives. They're not worried about the one girl that's over there by herself. How do they know you're by yourself? How do they know you're not waiting for somebody? Like people, this is ego based stuff because the ego wants you to think that you're more important to other people than you really are. Like other people are not worried about you. A lot of people are afraid to go eat by themselves, go to the movies, do all these type of stuff by themselves because they think other people are like, oh my God, look at that weirdo alone. And nobody is thinking that. And if they are, then they're the weirdo for being so concerned about a stranger. Like, who cares, you know? So, and vanity. Vanity is definitely ego. Like all this, like people constantly have to take selfies and, you know, seek attention on social media and have to show their body and stuff like that on social media for attention. Vanity, all that stuff comes from ego. Like attention, any type of attention seeking unnecessarily or for the, well, actually attention seeking is, there's really no positive reason to want to seek attention. So it's all from ego. Any type of time you're trying to get attention, it's ego based because you want validation. Ego wants to feel important, right? So anytime you feel like I need other people to acknowledge me, I need other people to, you know, um, see I'm important or I'm really attractive, I'm pretty, I got a, you know, a very nice body or whatever, or look at this car that I got or house or whatever, or this man that I got or something like that. Look at my relationship. And you have to constantly put those type of things. There's nothing wrong with being proud of what you've achieved in life and, you know, even being proud of how you look and stuff like that. But if that is your constant um, thing where you constantly have to seek validation about something, you know, your looks or your money or your relationship or something like that, you constantly have to put those things on Front Street. And it's never more so than people posting this type of stuff on social media. You need validation. This is all ego based type stuff. And a lot of times when people are in the ego, they're really trying to prove to themselves their worth within these things, you know, because they don't really believe it. Because when you are ego based, you're never happy. Even if you have what other people envy on the outside. A lot of people are like, you know, they post up and they have like, they're very physically attractive and people are like, okay, body goals. But I bet you that person has some deep insecurities about their body, especially if they have a surgically enhanced body, you know, they probably have very deep insecurities about it. Even though if we hashtag and goals about it, like, oh my gosh, she got a dream body. Even with all that, she probably has insecurities about her body. People who post up about their material things. Nothing wrong with that. Enjoy your material things. If you work for it, you have every right, right? But people who constantly do that type of stuff um, are not happy with what they have. You know, you may say, oh, well, they have all this money. Why would you not be happy? Because you know the saying goes, money does not buy happiness. So they don't have anything outside of money, right, to offer themselves, offer the world, or anything like that. So that's why they're trying to fill their ego up with validation about their material things. They're trying to get some type of joy and happiness out of those material things. Now, I'm not bashing anyone who has money because money makes the world go around, right? We all need money. But if that is the only thing that you measure your self-worth on, that's a problem and you will never be happy no matter how much money you have, right? So this isn't a bashing on people who are care about their appearance or care about having money, because I honestly feel like everyone should care about having money or care about their physical appearance, right? Um, what is another example? So usually the three things people boast about is money, their attractiveness, their body, and their relationship, right? So people who are always posting their man up or their woman up and trying to make other people jealous and want people to hashtag goals and stuff like that. Usually there is something going on in their relationship that is not um, as, you know, picture perfect as they want you to believe, right? But their ego right? Needs the validation for them to continue to feel like this relationship. Exactly. They're trying to prove themselves they're good enough. Exactly. So their relationship is there's something that they have some type of doubt about or something the relationship is not making them. Now I'm not saying anyone who posts their man or woman up, this is the case. But this is stuff that's habitual, not, they posting their man up once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. No, that type of stuff is completely fine and normal. But I'm talking about someone where it's like, dang, she posted him again, or dang, he posted her again, or something like that, that type of stuff. And you know that you're not hating. So you have to check yourself, because if you just like, she just posted her man up again and you hate him, and that's you coming from your ego, right? Because you may feel like jealous or envious or something. So jealousy and envy are also ego emotions, right? Because you feel like other people are better, or not necessarily feel they're better than you, but you feel like they don't deserve what they have, right? You feel like it should be you. That's usually, well, more so envy, because jealousy, and a lot of people think jealousy and envy are the same thing, and they're really not. Like, envy is more of like, you feel someone has something that you should have, like they don't deserve it and you should have it, right? So you envy them, you want what they have. That's ego. Jealousy is jealousy has many parts. It depends on the context. Like, jealousy is when you feel like, jealousy is you already have something, but you think something is gonna be taken away from you by some other means. So, for example, a man who is jealous over his woman, um, he probably thinks some other man is gonna take her away, right? So he gets jealous. It's kind of like a way to kind of protect yourself, or protect what you already have, because you don't think you do, because you don't think you deserve what you already have, right? So if you already have something, you're afraid it's going to leave you, um, and someone else is going to take it from you in some way, shape, or form, or it's then that usually leads to some type of jealousy, right? Um, so jealousy and envy are a little different. I just want to do that because a lot of people don't know the difference, and they think they're interchangeable or synonyms for each other, and they're not. But they're both from the ego. So, so the ego is just not a place for relationships, because the ego is about separation. The ego is not about unity. See, relationship is about two people coming together and being one, right? Or not that, well, I guess more so a marriage is about two people coming together and being one. Now, a relationship, now if you're not married and you have a relationship with someone, it's more about two people coming together and creating an entity called a relationship, right? So that relationship is what is important and what you're building off of. So when you get in your ego, or he may get in his ego, it no longer is about the relationship, the thing that you created, the relationship, but it becomes about each individual person, right? So it's, I need to prove I'm right, or I need to get my way, and he's like, no, I need to prove you wrong, or I need to prove I'm right, and I need to get my way, right? So it becomes about each individual person, right? Trying to get their validation that they're trying to seek, instead of the relationship. So when that happens over time, you're both tugging at the relationship. So at a point it'll break apart. So the ego has ruined many, many relationships, many marriages, many things, because two people or one person forgot that either it's about the relationship, or it's about the entity of you guys coming together and being a us, instead of a me, my. I don't feel this no more. He not doing this for me. She not doing that for me. She don't care about my needs. She's not doing this for me like she used to. It's about me, 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 me. When it gets about me, 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 when it should be about us, or what can I do to make us better, then you have a problem, and you're in your ego, right? And if you continue to stay in your ego, you're excuse me, you're gonna break the relationship apart, because a relationship is a living entity, and it must be fed and nourished. So when you're not feeding it with unity, and you're starving it with separation caused by the ego, it will die. it will die. Ego has caused many deaths of relationships. It has starved many relationships, right? And I would say that you cannot completely in this life get over the ego, probably, most likely, because we're imperfect humans. So we're always in some way, even like the most Zen monk or whoever these people are, priests, pastors, none of these people can completely get over. You cannot completely overcome your ego in human form, but you can very much, um, or I would say you can't get rid of it. That's what I'm saying. You can't get rid of your ego, right? There's going to be some times where your ego is just going to like pop up, but you can very much get in control of it and get on top of it and minimize its influence. So instead of it controlling you, like most people are controlled by their ego, you control it, right? So you can do that by, like I said, the ego, relationship, all this stuff is a living thing. The ego is a living thing, right? So anything that's living must have some type of food in order to um, survive, right? Nothing can survive that's living without having some type of nourishment, i.e., food, right? So if you don't feed your ego, then it will starve and it will die. So ways to not feed your ego, um, or it will get very weak and stuff like that. So ways to not feed your ego is to not think about me all the time, right? Selfishness. Um, to think about other people. To not get offended. If no one is talking directly to you, if they didn't say your name like, hey Joe, hey Jane, blah, 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 there is no need to get offended by anything someone said, right? Getting offended is definitely probably the number one behind rejection uh, issue with people who are controlled by their ego. They get offended very, very easily. So if no one is talking directly to you when they make a statement, even if you feel like, because you're like, if you get offended by something, that is your ego telling you that it applies to you. But you get offended because your ego doesn't want to take accountability. So it's a defense mechanism caused by the ego so that you will be distracted by making change and stay stuck where you are. Because another thing, the ego doesn't like change. You know, it feels like if you're changing, um, the ego is very dramatic. So it thinks you changing is probably you. It kind of equates it to like maybe you're going to die or something like that. So it's very dramatic. So it doesn't want you to change. So whatever is programmed in you is what it's trying to continue. So if you try and make a change, your ego will flare up a lot. You'll get offended by stuff. You'll get in defense mechanism. You'll get in defense mode. You'll get angry and stuff like that. You'll get triggered easily. These type of behaviors, when you notice this type of stuff going on with you, you realize that, okay, it's your ego. And the ego, these things are bad per se, but the ego isn't trying to be bad, right? This is the ego's way of protecting you, literally from death, because the ego thinks if you make it. So you have to ignore that and this is why you get afraid. This is why people are afraid to try new things. This is why people are afraid to move to different cities and different countries and go and take that lesson or do stuff that, um, invest in that company or, become entrepreneurs, quit their job. Like I'd rather stay in a terrible job because I know I have the security of a paycheck, right? So these are all ego things because the ego thinks if you make that change, you're going to die. So it's going to keep you stuck in that change. So you have to decide if you really want something, if you really want a relationship, if you really want to open a business or whatever, you have to ignore your ego giving you scare tactics like, oh, like all men ain't nothing, or if you do this, he gonna act like this or stuff like that. Like you have to ignore those promptings from your ego. And then when you're already in a relationship, you have to ignore the thing where it's like, oh, who does he think he's talking to? Like, how dare he talk to me like that? I don't like who is he calling hun? I'm not his honey. Or who's he calling baby? I'm not his baby. Like, he don't even know me. Or why is he complimenting my, saying I'm beautiful? That means you just want sex. Like all that type of stuff, jump into conclusions is ego. You don't know any of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Jumping to any kind of conclusion about someone when you don't know them or you don't know their intentions is ego. That's you. That's a defense mechanism trying to protect yourself, right? But I just told a client that you don't need to use things outside of yourself to protect you. If you have boundaries and standards, they will protect you from the fuckboys and narcissists, men who are just trying to waste your time, play games and that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? A lot of women try and use uh, different things, like I said, to protect themselves. Like a lot of them try to act tough and hard and all this other stuff on the outside. But on the inside, they are nothing but marshmallows and have absolutely no boundaries or standards. That's ego, right? Because you don't know how to protect yourself properly, so you put up a wall of like, oh well, no, you gotta take me out here. You have to take me to I don't know, like you have to take me to this type of date. I refuse to accept this type of date. Or you know what? It's been 2 weeks and you haven't set a date, so you must be playing games. Block. Like all that type of stuff. Now I'm not saying that it's okay for men to like, waste your time, because I definitely just said, if you have boundaries and standards, they will protect you from that. But you have to know when someone is overstepping a boundary, when they're overstepping one of your standards, and when you're just in your ego and you feel entitled, right? You feel like someone owes you something, right? Because no one owes you anything, especially in the dating scene. And the thing about that, the beautiful thing about no one owing you anything is you don't owe them nothing either, right? But you have to remember that no man owes you anything when you're dating. Nothing. The only thing he owes you is respect. And that's what you owe him back, is respect. As long as he is respectful towards you and you're respectful towards him, that's all that you owe each other as humans, is mutual respect. Other than that, if you're dating him, nothing else is he required or obligated to do. And on the same token, you're not required or obligated to do anything for him outside of respect him and show appreciation when he does things for you, right? And reciprocate if, you wanted to go somewhere. Okay, awesome, Janet. So Janet said, learning about the ego has been life-changing information for me as relates to community relationships. Awesome, it does, because I think a lot of times people don't incorporate ego into dating and relationships, especially in the femininity world, because a lot of times people who preach on femininity, they just talk about how femininity is the ultimate answer, and it's not. Because you can be as feminine as you want, but if you're controlled by your ego, you're still gonna lose out. And you're gonna feel like, well, this feminine thing don't work. I'm being feminine, but it does work. But it's not a one-all cure-all, right? You know. So biblically, it's called dying to self. Yes, exactly. For Christians, you call it dying to self. And that's the thing. Your ego is your natural man self, and you can never fully overcome that in this life. But you have to fight against it, right? You have to fight against. You cannot allow yourself to be controlled by your ego, because you will never have happy relationships with anyone. A man, a woman, your kids, your parents, your co-workers, your friends. You know, if you have an ego problem, you're always going to have issues, and then your ego is going to keep you in these issues, because it's going to make you play the victim and say, well, you're not the problem, they're the problem, they're toxic, they don't care about you and stuff like that. You're never going to take accountability, and you're never going to change, and your life is going to continue to stay the same. So um So these some things about ego is like when you get in possessiveness, when you get in neediness, attachment, fear, all those things come from the ego, right? Because the ego feels like it's getting rejected, and the ego hates rejection. Like the ego absolutely hates rejection. It's probably the top thing that it hates, is rejection. So anytime the ego feels like it picks up on the fact that you are being rejected by someone, it goes in overdrive to try and get revenge, right? So I always say, like, a lot of women are like, well, he's not calling me or he's not texting me or whatever, should I block him? Right? So at that point, that person is rejecting you by not contacting you, right? Or moving the relationship forward. You cannot reject someone who's already rejecting you, right? It does not make any sense. And it's very ego based. If a man is rejecting you by not contacting you, by not, moving a relationship forward, whatever he may or may not be doing, and you see it as rejection, you don't trying to reject him back is ego. Trying to get revenge or whatever is ego, right? So if he isn't contacting you, what is the point of blocking someone who isn't contacting you, right? If for a second it will make your ego feel better because in some type of way you may feel like, okay, I got the last word, or I got the last, he not gonna reject me, I'm gonna reject him, I'm blocking, right? That's ego, right? Okay, so another response would be, okay, well, he's not contacting me, that's cool. He doesn't have to. That doesn't say anything about me. I'm still a great person, whether this man contacts me or not. I'm just gonna forget about him and move on. Move on my life, move on with another man, right? That's a non-ego response in a way to handle the situation. Instead of being your ego, cursing him out, blocking him, getting upset, trying to be petty, be vengeful, all that other stuff, ego and all this stuff. It feels good for the moment to feed the ego. It feels good, but in the end, you always lose when you engage in ego behavior. You always lose. Today, someone said in my group, and she saw a guy post something on Facebook. Now they're dating. She know they're not together, but they're dating. I think he posted maybe another woman or something like that on his Facebook. Her initial response that she wanted to do was to curse him out or say something to him about it, But then she said, I remembered my ego. I remember that was an ego response because we're just dating. We're not exclusive. He doesn't owe me anything. So instead, I just unfollowed him on social media and I went on about my day. That is perfect. Perfect. Now you're slowly starving the ego. Over time, you will be less and less inclined to act egoic behaviors, right? So the next time that happens, you see a man post something that you don't like, post another woman on social media, you'll be less inclined to act in your ego and curse him out, block him, do something else that's petty or messy, or coming from anger or fear. You'll just be like, eh, we're just dating. He doesn't owe me anything. On to the next, or let me go get my nails done. Let me do something for me. And unfollow him on social media, right? And don't think about it again. That is how you starve the ego in dating and win. Right? Okay, so hopefully, ladies, you got some good nuggets about this, but this is a very important section, and I really urge people to read this section and reread it and really understand and look back over your own relationships and see how a lot of them ended up dying because they were not fed and the ego took over. Either your ego, his ego, or a combination of both of you guys' ego, right? And this is the thing, when a man is in his ego, the last thing you want to do is get in your ego, right? Because when two egos come at each other, it's like a war of egos. It's like his ego trying to disprove you, and your ego trying to disprove you. And it's just like two egos coming at each other. Both of you guys are gonna lose, right? So I always say, when a man, this doesn't mean be a doormat, because I do not teach being a doormat. But when a man is in his ego, when you can tell that he's in his ego about something, you just want to say, okay, and revisit the conversation another time. Remove yourself, say, you know what, I don't like the way this conversation is going. I'm going to remove myself from it, and we can talk about it when we're both at a more calm state, right? So you're not being a doormat because you're not letting him talk to you crazy or, be disrespectful, but you're not going to engage him either. You're not going to allow your ego and his ego to be battling each other, right? So you come back and talk about the situation at another time where you guys, both ego have subsided. That is how relationships grow and flourish, is when two people are able to put their ego aside, or one person, is able to put their ego aside for the betterment of the relationship. So I just want okay, so that's it for this video. So hopefully you guys got some insight onto the ego and how detrimental it is in your life, but it's even more so detrimental in romantic life. So really study the ego, and I think I have some examples in here. I have some exercises. Okay, so yeah, I have some affirmations in here about how to overcome the ego. But a great way to overcome the ego is just become very self-aware. You know, the more self-aware you are, the more you'll be able to realize immediately when you're in your ego. Okay? It's ego. I'm in my ego right now. What can I do to get out of it, right? Usually it's the opposite of whatever you feel like doing. It's how you're going to get out of it. Like if you're in your ego and you feel like, oh, I just want to curse this person out, or oh, I just want to like do something petty. The best way to respond is just to not do that or do the opposite, right? And over time, it's hard initially, but like I said, practice makes perfect. And if you starve something that's alive, it eventually will die. So if you starve your ego and you don't give it attention, it will die or get very close to death. Because I don't know if it'll completely die on Earth in the human life, but it'll get very close to death. It'll be very weak, at least. If you only, because I think it's impossible never to feed it. There are going to be some times where you just, you're just going to be your ego. Like there's sometimes I'm just in my ego. I'm like, okay, I was in my ego. So, um, but if it's not fed on a regular basis, it will be very weak, Like a lot of people, I mean, think of like in third world countries, right? Those people are still alive, but barely, some of them, like the people who are very, very, very poverty stricken, they're alive, but barely because they're getting food, but not on a regular basis to be healthy, right? They're malnourished. So the same thing with the ego. Like even if you feel like feed it once a month, it'll still be alive, but it's malnourished, so it won't be strong. It'll be very weak, right? Is what you want, and you will definitely be the one in control and not it. Okay, so that's it for day 11. If you have any comments, questions about the book after you've read it, if you're wondering what book I'm talking about, the link will be in the description. Join my Facebook group. The link will also be in the description of this video. And like this video if you like it. And subscribe to my channel to get more, to continue on this journey of 21 days, and also to be notified of my other videos. All right, till next time, ladies, have a great day. Bye-bye.